And welcome back to the channel where we talk about only good comics. I'm Brant, and this is Friday First. This is that series where we talk about those brand new #1 issues, new character debuts, story arcs, and the like. And this is for books that are coming out on July 9th and 10th, 2024. So, I have a lot of books to talk about. I think I got like 15 books. It's a big week. Plus, I have a bunch of other anticipated and like 5 recaps. So, we're not going to waste any time. We're going to jump right into that. The one thing I will say is for everybody that celebrated, hope you had a wonderful 4th of July and celebrated and enjoyed the fireworks and whatever whatever way you chose to celebrate it. I hope you had a good time. So, with that done, let's move into those recaps. First one we're going to talk about is Free Agents, issue #1 from Image Comics. This is by Kurt Busiek and Fabian Nicieza with art by Stephen Mooney. And this was one that I just found out right before the books came out last week. And I was excited by the creators involved with it. When I read it, I wasn't as excited as I'd hoped I would be. It was a little confusing at points, and I thought it was all kind of very rushed and crammed together. And then there was like this big flashback that felt like it was happening in real time. There was no real indication that it wasn't, or that they it turned out it was like a dream kind of thing. So, and I think that was explained in a bit of a throwaway line. Just didn't quite come together for me as much as I had hoped it would. I thought the characters were interesting. Their power sets were definitely unique, and the fact that they um, are supposedly no longer fighting this war. I just felt like we were introduced to a lot of characters all at once. Didn't really get to know any of them at all before the big twist, and we're thrown right back into a war. So I thought it was just all very abrupt and just wasn't what I was hoping it was going to be. And I like to talk about good comics. So again, interesting characters, interesting concept. Am I going to continue with it? Probably not, to be perfectly honest. But I'm glad that they got something brewing that they're excited about, that they're out there doing, and I hope other people that read this enjoyed it. Uh, where I didn't as much as I had wanted to. I read so many books. It's hard to be like, for the ones that, that I have to give like several issues to get me there. Um, you know, Sometimes you got to cut stuff. So that's all it is. Next up, we have the Amazing Spider-Man Annual #1. This is the next part of Infinity Watch. If you remember, uh, I really liked the Thanos annual that kicked all this off. I thought that was really well done. I loved the way those characters came together. So this is kind of continuing on that. I mean, it definitely is continuing it, but in a way that just like completely focused on one character, but it was mostly a Spider-Man story. So it was a little odd that the continuation between the two wasn't as smooth as I had hoped it would be, or as I think it should have been. This particular story focused on a meeting between Overtime, which is the Time Stone bearer or whatever, and Spider-Man, and how he kept going back in time to make Spider-Man have a better day than he was having was the impetus here. And then, at the end, you get shoved in the other characters. It's like, oh, hey, by the way, we're doing this thing. And it just it was fine as a throwaway Spider-Man story, but as a larger part of this Infinity Watch story, I felt like it missed the mark. The one saving grace was the backup story with Nick Fury, the guy from Supreme Power. Oh man, Kyle. What is his name? I can't think of his. Is it Nighthawk or something like that? I can't think of his name. He's the Batman type character from that universe. Him and the reveal that we got at the end of the Thanos, which was a character coming back, and the references to how that character went away, and all this stuff, and the power that's bestowed upon this character. That backup story kind of sold me on the issue, and that's what I wanted to see more of, was continuing stories from what happened in that Thanos annual. So Fortunately, we got a little bit of that here, enough to keep me hooked. But if all of the parts are like this story, I'm going to be a little disappointed. And that's kind of what happens with some of these stories that take place in these annuals, that you get more stories like this than the really good ones. So we'll see what happens for this one. It didn't impress me as much as I wanted it to as well. All right, moving on. I promise I do. I'm trying to point out the good parts here, right? So we got X-Men, Blood Hunt, Psylocke, issue one. I believe this was a one shot. It was a tie into the Blood Hunt event, just focusing on Psylocke and John Greycrow. And I do like their relationship, and I like that they're kind of doing their own thing. They're in Japan. They're just on. I don't know if they're on vacation. It's kind of seemed like they were kind of relaxing after all the stuff that had gone down with Krakoa and stuff. They were just like, okay, let's get away. And then, of course, vampires attack. And the twist on this is, yes, it tied in. There were vampires involved, but I like that because they're in Japan and this darkness has fallen, that this story kind of took the line that all of the supernatural forces in myth and legend and beliefs and all of that came out of the woodwork because it felt like free reign. So in this particular one, they were dealing with a certain legend of this woman with a slit mouth that um, also became vampiric because of all this, and they had to face her and stuff. So I thought that was interesting, and they like threw in a little bit of relationship building with between Psylocke and Greycrow. So I thought that was decent. Was it the absolute best tie-in I've read? No, but did I enjoy the story? Yeah, and I love Psylocke, and I can't wait to see her in X-Men. So yeah, I enjoyed the story for what it was. Next up, we have Public Domain, issue number 6. This is the start of a new arc after the book took a hiatus. And next week, we'll be talking about a book later on called The Domain, which is spinning out of this. And I'll elaborate on that one when we get to it. But as far as this goes, I know a lot of people were on the fence with this book because it's kind of a slow burn. It's very meta. We're talking about um, older creators that, these two creators, a writer and an artist, that created this superhero, the Domain, 40 years ago, blew up. So it's basically their Superman or their Spider Man or whatever. Blew up, and then there was like a war over rights and all this stuff. And the artist who was in this scenario, the Jack Kirby person, didn't get any of the money, any of the rights, and all of that. And that's kind of the basis of the story. So where we are now, picking up from the first arc, is he's got the rights to his character back. He's wanting to create new comics with his sons, but their ideas are clashing, and he's trying to bring in some older people to kind of balance the young voices and all this stuff. So you got all this drama built up with the one son doesn't want anything to do with it really. The other one and this other writer they brought on, which is also a younger person, wants to have their say. Wants it to be a more modern take on the concept, but the dad is like sticking to his guns. He wants the same character that he created 40 years ago to continue on, and all of that. So that's kind of where we're at now. But one son, the artist, has drawn these concepts of three different people. One of them's a woman. I can't remember what exactly the characters are, but there was like three different characters. I think they were different races, different genders, and maybe different sexualities as well. So it was a much more modern take on a 40-year-old kind of concept. So, but that leads us to what's coming, which we'll talk about later. But as far as this book in and of itself, I actually really enjoyed this issue. I did. It felt very real. It felt like a conversation that would happen between creative teams that are having differences, and with all this baggage that comes around a character like this, I thought this was a pretty good delivery of that. I actually enjoyed this issue more than most of the issues of the first arc. So, and knowing where it's headed and what's coming next, it kind of got me excited about it. So I did enjoy this issue. And finally, we have Absolute Power issue number 1. I did a 7-part video on TikTok and YouTube about this. If you want to go track it down, where I elaborate more about my thoughts on this book. basically, I mean, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a fantastic start to the event, um, where Amanda Waller basically has all of the cards, and she is taken down every superhero within her vicinity. Her reach is far, and it is powerful. And she's thought of everything to the point where she's outsmarted Batman, who is at a loss, and is so taken aback by the fact that she outsmarted him that he doesn't know what to do at this point now. She's managed to figure out a way to take away superpowers, magic, and all these things. So she has beaten the entire superhero community in one fell swoop. And obviously, it's not just her. She's got the support of the United Planets. She's got the support of the United States government. She's got, the Brainiac Queen. She's got Failsafe. She's got an army of Amazos. I mean, she's got her Suicide Squad. She's got Green Arrow and Dreamer helping her. So I mean, she's won, right? And it's very interesting, kind of what could happen out of this. Like, is this it? Is this the story? Is Amanda Waller going to be on top, and then the heroes finally find a way to fight back and defeat her, and then everything goes back to the norm, saves the day. All that good stuff that you usually have in an event. Everything goes back to the status quo. Or is this the starting point for a complete universal shakeup? There's been rumors about a DC Ultimate Universe, different things that could come out of this. Is this a crisis? Does this become a crisis level event? Or does it splinter off and create something brand new? We don't know yet. Obviously, it's early days, but this is a very interesting story, and the way that she structured the complete and utter collapse of every superhero is just mind-boggling and kind of beautiful to watch, but in a terrifying way. This was just a brilliant book. It really was, and I cannot wait to read more. All right, that is it for the recaps. So let's get into the books, the number one issues, new story arcs and characters and all that stuff that I'm looking forward to next week. All right, we're going to start with our 3 honorable mentions this week. The first one is Primer Clashing Colors, issue number 1. I know my good friend Kat has been enjoying the Primer series that's been going on, so I don't know if she's picking this one up, but I would guess that she probably would, or at least try it. So Primer Chasing Colors, if you've been enjoying the Primer series prior to this, you'll probably enjoy this one as well. The creative team is Thomas Krajewski and Jennifer Murrow are writing, with Gretel Lusky illustrating. I'm not familiar with any of them, but I'm not sure if that's the same creative team that was doing it. I don't think it is, but I could be wrong on that. But yeah, so if you're a fan of Primer, continue reading the Adventures of Primer in Clashing Colors. Next honorable mention is Star Wars. I always butcher this name. Ahsoka? Asuka? I really don't know. I haven't seen the series yet with Rosario Dawson. I can't remember the pronunciation of the character's name. So Star Wars fans, don't beat me up. But if you were a fan of this character in the animated show or in the live action, or you like Rosario Dawson, or you like the Marvel Star Wars books, I just wanted to let you know that this book was coming out. The lifetime of Marvel Star Wars books is coming to an end. They are ending their line of Star Wars books very soon. So if you want to ride it out to the end, check this one out. And finally, we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 40th Anniversary Comic Celebration number 1 for our final honorable mention. This is obviously celebrating 40 years. This is a big book with a bunch of creators in it. It's got a bunch of pinups. It's got stuff highlighting touchstones from the comics and beyond. This is for big fans of TMNT. I'm a big fan, but it's also a $12 book, and I buy a lot of books, so I don't know. It's 72 pages, $11.99. And it's, like I said, it's got a bunch of creators. You can see it on your screen there, but from Jim Lawson, Tristan Jones, Paul Harmon, Rhonda Pattison. I'm just skipping around Tom Waltz, Kerry Randolph, Emilio Lopez, Chris Allen, uh, etc. It's also got a bunch of covers, including and different pieces, including pieces by Eastman and Laird, and various other creators that have been involved, Simon Bisley, and a Golden Age cover by Michael Cho. So lots of covers to choose from. Actually, maybe I can show off some of those. Yeah, here's some of the covers for it. So if you are a huge TMNT fan and you just got to have every piece of content, and you want to help celebrate and support a 40-year celebration for TMNT, you might want to check this one out. I'm sure it will be a collector's item. All right, so that's our final honorable mention though. So let's move into the rest of the books. I almost made this one an honorable mention too because I'm not following the Hulk series. I didn't really enjoy it. I dropped off after an issue or two. Just wasn't for me. But I'm reading or trying, excuse me, all the Blood Hunt tie-ins, and this is a Blood Hunt tie-in. It is by Philip Kennedy Johnson, so it's the creative team and everything is intact. It seems like it's still tied into the story that's been running through Hulk. Says he's on his quest to save Charlie's soul, heads him through the old west town of Old Tucson, and then obviously vampiric shenanigans occur as Hulk gets his taste of the whole Blood Hunt event going on. So I love that this is affecting every corner of the universe and that it's still not derailing characters from the stories that they're on. Just if you're not reading a particular character or their story, you may not be into that particular tie-in. But for me, I like to immerse myself in events. It's just the way I do. So I'm gonna read this one, and hopefully I'll enjoy it. But that's it. That's Hulk, and I'm gonna give this one a possibly good, just because. Yeah, that's where I'm at with the Hulk. Next up, we have from the DC Vault, Death in the Family, Robin Lives, issue number 1. This is continuing from, if you remember, not that long ago, they did like a retelling of the story of Jason Todd's interaction with the Joker, wherein he wasn't killed. What if he lived? At the end of that issue, he didn't actually die. So now this is the continuation as to what would have been the next step of Jason Todd's story had he survived that altercation with the Joker. And so that's what we have here. I read, that, and I thought it was fine. It was like, okay, it's just an alternate ending, basically. So there wasn't a whole lot there. But this is actually that next chapter. So I'm actually really curious what would happen here. I did actually read the Jason Todd death back in the day, not right as it happened, but my cousin had a bunch of Batman books when we were younger, and I remember reading that storyline. I think it was, too late to like call the hotline and all that stuff, but it was around that time, so I was very familiar with what was going on. I read what happened after and how sad Batman was and all that stuff. So I'd be very curious to see what happens beyond that with him living and how that changes the relationship between Bruce and Jason from what we know now. This is written by J.M. DeMatteis with art by Rick Leonardi. I had the L in my brain because I saw the last name. So definitely top-notch creative teams here. So I'm curious about this one, and I'm going to give this one a potentially good, just based on what I've read before and the creators involved. So yeah, it can be one to check out. Am I actually going to pick this one up? It depends on, I've got a lot of books and I just don't know if it's going to make the cut or not, but I'm still curious. At some point, if I don't, I'm going to have to find out what happens and if it's good. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Not sure yet, but potential for this one. Here's another one. I'm just going to go out here and I'm going to give this one a possibly good. And the reason I'm saying possibly is because I'm not a huge fan of the character. Mike Spidersley read all the Venom stuff, and he kind of told us ahead of time that the previous Kid Venom thing that came out was reprinting these little shorts that had come out previously, and he wasn't impressed with it. I read it and I was like, okay, yeah, I can kind of see why he didn't love it, but at the same time, there's something about the character that just kind of keeps like gnawing at the back of my brain. It's like, oh, you got to give him a shot at least, you know. So I that's kind of where I'm at with this character. I kind of want to give him a shot and see what it's about, and maybe I'll get it, maybe I won't. I'm undecided on this one. That's why it's gonna possibly good. But if you are a Kid Venom fan and you just like everything Venom, definitely check this one out. Brand new series for Kid Venom with a possibly good from me. Okay, here is one that I am going to get, which is Action Comics 1067. This is a three-part arc that is written by Gail Simone. It's kind of a not a filler story, but kind of a gap story between House of Brainiac and everything going on, and then what comes next. But this is it's drawn by Eddie Barrows, and it says Superman and the challenge from the stars. Superman fights for two worlds. When a massively powerful alien race makes Earth their arena, Superman must stand alone against impossible challenges that threaten locations all around the world and the lives of those he loved. Uh, it says it's a can't be missed. Tail, of course, they all do. It looks like Rainbow Roll is making her DC debut with the story about Lois Lane in this as well. So it's doubly exciting. You get Gail Simone and Rainbow Rowell writing a Superman book, so that's going to be fun. I'm gonna give this one a promisingly good, just because I'm a big fan of both of those writers, and I think they can do a fun story. I don't really care that it's not like in the present, that it's taking place in this little pocket of whatever. I think it's going to be fun, and I'm going to check it out. So promisingly good for me. Next up is Giant Size Silver Surfer issue one, and I mean it's a one shot, but I am I'm always on the fence with these giant size books, and I'm not the hugest Silver Surfer fan, but oddly enough, I'm a Terrax fan. Uh, and that goes back to my love of New Warriors. The very first foe that the New Warriors faced when they became a team was Terrax. And so Terrax holds a dear place in my heart. It's also one of the first superhero action figures that my brother had when he was a little kid. We would buy him, we would take him to the store, let him pick out one. He, picked out Terrax one time, and it just, because of my, connection with New Warriors, it's just like this bond. I like Terrax. I think he's a cool character and an underrated character. He's very powerful, but nobody does much with him. So anytime I see him pop up, I'm like, oh, Terrax, I got to check it out. So obviously a big history between Terrax and Silver Surfer, both Heralds of Galactus, all that good stuff. So in this story, um, Terrax is trying to get out of the shadow of Silver Surfer. So in the process, though, he's got to find a way to save himself. So all this good stuff, and then of course there's a reprint of a classic issue of Silver Surfer, like all these giant size do. This is written by Matt Groom with art by Tommaso Bianchi. So I am going to give Giant Size Silver Surfer a potentially good. But yeah, because it's Terrax, I'm going to check it out. I'm the only person I know that reads the Minor Threats books, but obviously they keep publishing them, so other people must be enjoying them as well. This is from the world of Minor Threats, created by Patton Oswalt. This is Barfly issue one. I don't really know much about Barfly, and I can't remember which character that is, or if we've seen him before. But we have Kyle Starks and Patton Oswalt and Jordan Bloom writing with Ryan Brown on art. So that's exciting. You got incredible creators involved in the writing process. I think this world is fun. I've enjoyed everything I've read from the Minor Threats world thus far. This Barfly is obviously a regular in this bar for criminals, which is the lower layer bar, and he's like the Fly, like Jeff Goldblum. The Fly, the movie. He's that kind of character, And it says what happens to Henchman when he no longer has anyone left to hinge for. So it's kind of a story on that, and based in that world where everything is just kind of upside down, where criminals run the roost and heroes are out for revenge and all this stuff. It's kind of a crazy world. If you've never checked out Minor Threats, if you're a fan of Patton Oswalt, you should. But for this one, I am going to give it a I'm going to give it a promisingly good, because I enjoy everything Minor Threats. If you don't like this world, you'll probably have a different opinion of this. But I like this world, so for me, it's promisingly good. So, okay, here's one that my friends Mike and Cav both dropped now. And I'm still on board. I still like the series. I enjoy it every time I read it. I think the art is fun. I'm the one that usually kind of stays on books a little bit longer anyway of the three of us. So here I am staying on for a brand new story arc that starts in issue 11 of Batman and Robin. This is by Joshua Williamson. I know he's leaving the book soon, but so this might be his last arc, as a matter of fact. But Batman and Robin are on Dinosaur Island for a getaway of, father and son kind of vacation, if you will. But there's a deadly family secret that comes to light, and so they investigate, because that's what they do, right? So it sounds like a fun time to me. We've moved away from Man Bat and all that stuff, so we get to see something different with these characters. So yeah, I'm there for it, and hopefully it'll be good. And I'm going to give this one a potentially good, just because I didn't love the previous arc. I did like a lot of the elements of it. I just it didn't quite do it for me, but hopefully this next one will. All right, next up we have Kill All Immortals #1 from Dark Horse. This tagline at the beginning here gets me. Succession meets John Wick with Immortal Vikings. I mean, I love Succession. I've loved that show. I think it was fantastic. I like John Wick. And when you throw in Immortal Vikings into that kind of combo, it's like, how can you not instantly be interested in that, right? So it says, years 1,000 years ago, Viking explorer Eric the Red and the four adult children discovered a mysterious source of immortality. Now in the modern world, they're an enigmatic billionaire family with a powerful banking empire. I mean, I don't even have to read anymore to know that I'm going to try this book. It sold me. It ends this description with "Get ready for a bloodthirsty immortal fight like no other." This is by Zach Kaplan, who's I've talked about before, hit and miss with me, but the stuff that I like, I really like. Uh, FICO Azio, I'm very familiar with their art as well, and it's really good. So I'm excited about that. So we got really great creators on this really unique concept that I'm really curious about. I cannot actually wait to try this one. It sounds pretty fun to me. So I'm going to give it a potentially good, just because I haven't seen previews. I don't know anything more about it beyond this description, but I'm definitely going to give it a potentially with the possibility to raise that to a promisingly, based on that first issue. So we'll see what happens. Well, you know how I feel about Absolute Power. Now we have Absolute Power Task Force VII #1. This is the new version of the Suicide Squad, led by all these Amazos. And it says the trinity of evil's forces target the Marvel family. So we're seeing this evil force of Amanda Waller's come in contact with the Captain and Mary Marvel and all of them. And so she said her latest living weapon, the Last Sun, sets his sights on the other most powerful supers in the DCU, the Marvel family. So really excited about that, because I love the Marvel family. I loved everything in Absolute Power. I really like what they're doing with the villains that are supposed to be the good guys here, and coming into contact with the Marvel family just sounds like a fun time to me. You've got Leah Williams doing the writing with Caitlin Yarsky, who I'm not familiar with, on art chores. So yeah, I'm curious about this one, but because of everything I've read so far of Absolute Power that I've loved, I'm giving this one a promisingly good. The Hunger in the Dusk is back with book 2, issue 1. After the falling out between Cal and Tara, love is lost in the fragile human orc. Alliance has ripped at the seams. So, in the previous series, which was a little bit slow, but still really good, you did have that very loose alliance fall apart because of disagreements and mistrust and all this stuff. And then you have this other group of people that are ancient and powerful, very vampire like, kind of stepping in and kind of ruining it for everybody, for the humans and the orcs, and feeding and killing people left and right. And just, if you like medieval stories with character building and drama and romance and all that stuff, and if you're a fan of G. Willow Wilson, who writes this, this is one to check out. I enjoyed the first arc, or the first book, I should say. So I'm definitely excited for this one, and I'm giving this one a promisingly good. All right, here we go. I talked about it earlier. We have the Domain issue #1. This is by, I love the way they did this. They cross it out. It's actually by Chip Zdarsky writing it, but you have the writer Miles Dallas, who is one of the characters in Public Domain. You also have Sid Dallas and Tanya and Dave Dallas. You have all the Dallases, and the woman that I was talking about that is also writing. So I think that's pretty cool that they actually had their names as credits on the book just crossed out and replaced with Rachel Stott and Chip Zdarsky, etc. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty fun. So, like I said, one of the, in Public Domain issue 6, the kid that could draw. I forget which one he is. If he's, I think that was Dave, but I could be wrong. Whichever one draws, he had drawn like 3 concept characters, and that is these 3 characters, which I couldn't remember what they looked like. But yes, it's these 3 characters, obviously different races, different genders, and spread across, instead of just the straight white male that was created 40 years ago by their dad. So this is his vision come to life as he's, like I said, at the end of issue 6, he's taking a nap on the couch, and we zoom in on his drawings of these 3 characters. So I don't know if this is like a dream sequence, if this is birthed out of his idea, or if this is the actual book that they end up publishing. I don't know, but I'm really curious to see what happens. So this is the story of these characters that they are writing about in Public Domain in their own story. So that's pretty cool. It says when 3 best friends discovered a crashed UFO, they also discover technology that gives them incredible ability. So you're kind of power packing them, right? You're or Green Lanterning them, but because there's multiple of them, it's kind of a power pack situation where they all have a little bit of the power and they share it between them, which was kind of his idea. Here's the catch: only one of them can use the powers at a time, so they have to keep switching, like Radiant Black, a little bit there. So that's very interesting as well. And I love the way this description says Sid Dallas and the team at Dallas Comics reimagined their classic character, the Domain, for a new audience. And this is that comic. So that's pretty cool. I just, the meta on meta stuff going on with this book is just brilliant. I mean, this is something I wish I thought of, this, just to do it this way. This is pretty cool. I love the way this is coming together, and I'm really excited to see, to read this book and see what their fictional characters are. I know that's a weird way to say it, but it's, I don't know. This is just a fun concept. This is a fun way to play with the world that Zdarsky has created within the Public Domain series, and to see that birthed into this is pretty neat. So I'm really excited about it, and I'm giving this one a promisingly good. And finally, we have X-Men issue #1 by Jed MacKay and Ryan Stegman. Really excited about this. I mean, a brand new X book with Cyclops, Beast, Magneto, Psylocke, Kid Omega, Temper, Magic, and Juggernaut, written by Jed MacKay, whose writing I am a big fan of, with art by Ryan Stegman, whose art I am a big fan of. And this is after, Krakoa's gone, Orcus has fallen, all that good stuff. But these are the X-Men from here on out. And they've made a home base in Alaska of all places, so that's going to be interesting. So you're taking this concept of them and putting them in a completely different environment and having, it's a little bit of classic X-Men with like Cyclops, Beast, and kind of that middle age, not middle age, but middle era X-Men with Magneto in the mix as well. And then you got Psylocke from the '90s version, and then Kid Omega, and Juggernaut from like the 2000 era. So it's pretty cool. Temper from modern. So you got a little bit of everything kind of thrown into this team together, and it's going to be interesting to see what this version of X-Men does. So yeah, it's going to be pretty cool. This is Legacy 301 of X-Men, so that's pretty fun as well. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited about it. I'm giving this one a positively good, just because I love all the characters. I love the creative team on this. I'm excited about the new direction for the X-Men. So positively good for me for X-Men issue number 1. And that's all the anticipated books, the number 1 issue. So I've got a few other books. I think there's like 7 of them that I'm also anticipating that aren't number 1 issues. So let's quickly go through those. We have Deadweights issue number 4. This is from, is it Ahoy? Yes, from Ahoy. And I've enjoyed this series. This is by Tiona Finch and Sebastian Puriz, sorry. And this is the story of 2 members of a supervillain team that have decided that they no longer want to do this. Like, one of them left the team, the other one was fired, I think, from the team, and they're best friends, they're buddies. One of them is still a little villainous, and the other one just wants to get some pants and relax. But they keep getting brought in back into the world. So last issue, they were kind of forced onto the superhero team, trying to convert them, trying to they imprison them and trying to I don't know if they're trying to brainwash them, train them, whatever. They're trying to make them part of the superhero team, but they still want none of that. So they broke out, and that's where we're at now. And going into this one, they find themselves actually happy in a happy life, but a former paladin, or maybe he's still a paladin, the Red Paladin, who hates them both, is coming after them for revenge or whatever, because he hates them. And so this life will not let them go. And I think it's been a fun series so far, so I'm enjoying it. Then we have Geiger issue number 4. Really been enjoying this series as well. In this particular issue, we see them up against a bunch of these organ harvesters. I forget what they're called, the organ people. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, when we left them, they were being surrounded by a bunch of these organ people, and now they're going to fight more than they've ever fought to get out and save themselves, basically. So that's kind of the premise of this one. But this has been a little bit of a slow build as they've been trying to find this other glowing man that so they can potentially kill Geiger. But we don't know if that's going to come to fruition or not. The real story, though, here is between Tariq and this former foe of his. I cannot think of his name, but this knight that's following him around. The bond that is forming between them, but yet you still feel like there's something that the knight is keeping secret. Like he's not being on the up and up here, but still there's kind of a bond forming between them, a friendship and a respect that is kind of slowly building between these 2 characters, and that's been interesting and fun to watch. Next up, we have X-Men Heir of Apocalypse number 3. Now, this series overall has just been like one big action romp, as these characters are fighting for who knows why. Each one of them have their own motivations for taking Apocalypse up on his offer, but we don't really see much of why. But the interesting thing about this issue is, at the end of last issue, Archangel confronted Apocalypse, and we left on the cliffhanger of these 2 just duking it out. And by the indication of the cover and the description here that I'm reading, these 2 are going to fight it out in this issue. And that's kind of what I'm excited about. I want to see Apocalypse and Archangel just throw down. That's it. That's all. Next up is Ain't No Grave number 3. Scotty Young series from Image Comics. I really enjoyed this series. I think it's fun. It's not my favorite of these Scotty Young books, but I do think it's been really good so far. She's in the underworld now, not supposed to be there, obviously, and now she's got to gamble her fate against the mysterious Madam Gates. But she could lose, and then she would have to stay. But if she wins, she gets what she wants. So that's kind of where we are in this issue. Next up is Green Lantern number 13, tying into Absolute Power, as Hal Jordan is the latest casualty of Amanda Waller. He's back on Earth now. He's depowered, and he has to find a way to get to his hidden power battery so he can recharge. But unfortunately, there's other plans afoot, and the United Planets are playing their hand as well. So, really great series. If you've not checked this out, it's a really good one. You should catch up on this one for sure. The Ultimates, issue number 2. The first issue was a lot better than I expected it to be. I thought it was a really solid start for these characters, and now we are promised by the description for this issue that shocking secrets of the Ultimate Universe will be revealed. We have Captain America dealing with the Maker's dismantling of the nations. He goes to the White House. We've got a brawl between Midas and this young band of freedom fighters. And we've got a dark history of what used to be the United States in this issue. So it sounds like this book is really really going to be something to keep your eyes on if you're a fan of the Ultimate Universe. And finally, we have Transformers issue number 10, Shockwave's plan revealed. Can the Autobots recover from their latest loss in time to save everyone? So it's this ultimate, I guess stare down's not the right word, but this ultimate confrontation between Shockwave and his plans, and if the Autobots can actually thwart those plans going into this issue. So Transformers is always a good book, no matter what. So I'm always looking forward to that book. But that's it. That's all the books. That's a lot of books. I'm losing my voice, so I'm going to cut it here. Hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. It really does help the channel, helps the algo, all that good stuff. So do that. Of course, hit that subscribe notification bell so you don't miss any of the other content up on this channel, like all those shorts that I mentioned earlier and more episodes of this show. Of course, you can follow me across social media at Only Good Comics, or type in onlygoodcomics.com in your browser to take you right back to this YouTube channel where we talk about only good comics. Until next time, thanks for watching. Take care. Have a great weekend. And keep reading those comics.